You can improve your Korean listening skills by learning Satoori. 안녕하세요. 한국어 배치의 이한입니다. Welcome back to Satoori 배치. If you haven't watched this series from the beginning, I highly recommend watching it that way. So here is a link to that video. Also, at the end of this video, there's some information about how you can get a free download through our new Korean Patch website, as well as a little update for those of you who have already signed up for the mailing list. So watch through to the end of the video to get all of that info. In today's episode, I'm going to explain how learning Satoori from the beginning of my Korean language learning process helped tune my ear to the subtleties of pronunciation and maybe even more importantly, intonation. Every language exists as a spectrum. Just take a look at this map. On this map, there are several super saturated areas where lots and lots of respondents said that they say one of these words: soda, pop, Coke, or soft drink. But there are also a bunch of transitional zones in between, where the color fades out, sometimes even into like an indeterminate white color of ambiguity. This principle doesn't apply just to vocabulary choices. It applies to pronunciation as well. The point here is that one way to look at a language is a spectrum of people who can understand each other. The rules that standardization bring are arbitrary, and they're usually just based on some prestige dialect. So if we continue down the path of that idea I just shared with you, speakers of a language are people who can understand anyone else who falls on that same spectrum, more or less. So if you really want to become a speaker of a language, you need to familiarize yourself with all of the differences. You don't necessarily need to know that people who say garage instead of garage are from Chicago, for example, but you do need to know that garage and garage are the same word. You need to be flexible enough with your listening to recognize that words are also a spectrum of pronunciations that are accepted as the same word. So let's take this English word. Some people say bin. Some people say ben. Some people even say bean. All of these sound pretty different and actually can sound like different words, yet people are quite comfortable hearing any one of these and not feeling any major friction when listening to English. Of course, there are other words for context that tell you what the other speakers are saying, but those words' pronunciation are also likely to be just as different. So I think that really is beside the point. Hearing a new vocabulary word being spoken by as many different types of speakers as possible help build great connections that tell you something like pronunciation like this equals this kind of word. So do you see where I'm going with this? Satoori introduced me to a whole new set of pronunciations for the vocabulary words that I was gleaning from media. I think my ability to recognize Korean vocabulary words when listening was affected heavily by the fact that I was learning Satoori alongside 표준어 from the beginning. I was kind of forcibly extending the range of acceptability for pronunciation for different words. As I heard more and more Satoori pronunciations of words, I also started to recognize the patterns in the changes. Sounds like this, change to this, combinations like this, change to this, etc., etc. I think it made me more subconsciously prepared for what pronunciation to expect from someone once I'd heard them speak a little bit. As I became more familiar with the differences in the sound system used in Gyeongsangdo, I started doing something else too, recognizing who was speaking in this Gyeongsangdo dialect. This sort of became a game for me while I was watching TV or meeting people in person. I would try to figure out like, is this person from Gyeongsangdo? Because I do kind of know what they sound like. But it wasn't just pronunciation. There's something else I picked up on while I was listening to lots and lots of Gyeongsangdo Satoori too. Unlike 표준어, Gyeongsangdo Satoori has a pitch accent system. The intonation or pitch contour of two words with identical pronunciation determines their meaning. We have something sort of similar to this in English called stress accent. For example, these words are spelled the same, but are different parts of speech, which means they have different grammatical functions. And all of this is based on how I say them. Perfect versus perfect. I'm sure you recognize what I'm talking about. Now, these are not interchangeable. Part of speaking English involves saying these correctly, or the sentence is going to be confusing on first listen, though not necessarily unintelligible. There are tons of words like this. In Gyeongsangdo Satoori, though, the actual meanings of words can be determined by their pitch contour. The most basic example you'll hear of this is 만나 and 만나. Can you hear the difference? 만나, 만나. The first one is high-low. And the second one is low-high. Messing these up makes the sentence completely incomprehensible to the listener if they're not pitched correctly. The first one is using the Korean verb 맞다, which means to be correct or right. And the second one is using the Korean verb 많다, which means many, for there to be many. So we're looking at a difference of, really, is that right? And are there a lot? There's a lot more detail to the intonation pattern of Satoori versus 표준어, but A, it has not been fully studied to the level of like Japanese pitch accent where there's like books and things like that. B, it's something that even native speakers can't explain very well. And C, it's not something we're gonna spend much time talking about unless the pitch is determining the meaning of the word or it's an easy pattern that you're gonna hear over and over again. There's another reason that learning all of this was super helpful to me. It made me realize that 표준어, which is a much less explicit or direct version of the Korean language than 경상도 사투리, also has some intonation changes that can completely change the meaning of a sentence. Now, linguists and linguistic papers will tell you that standard Korean has no pitch accent system. That being said, it does have some situations where the intonation of a sentence determines its meaning from another sentence with identical pronunciation. 너 뭐 했어? 너 뭐 했어? So through learning Satoori, I learned that intonation can affect the meaning of a sentence, which made me much more sensitive to the intonation of people speaking around me. Especially given the fact that in 경상도 사투리, the pitch contour can completely change the meaning of a word. The point here is that, yet again, learning Satoori, or at least learning about Satoori, helped improve my standard Korean as well. That's it for today. I hope this video was helpful for you. In the next video, I'm going to talk about how learning Satoori helped me connect with people more, which was key to maintaining my motivation while learning this language. I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Hey, just a quick new version of this announcement that I've been putting at the end of these videos. So we've launched our new website, koreanpatch.co. And if you sign up for our mailing list on this website, I'm giving you a free download. The name of this is Persistent Grammar Puzzles in Korean. These are pieces of grammar that show up from day one or near day one, but they're not something you can really understand until you've acquired it, which can take a lot of time. So this guide tries to give you some extra context about how to think about these grammar forms as you're learning how to use them. For those of you who have already signed up for the mailing list, I had a little bit of a tech issue with the website. I fixed it now, and I sent out another email to everyone who was already on the list with a quick, easy download button. So if you haven't clicked that yet, go ahead and get your free PDF. That's the easiest way to get it. Otherwise, signing up for the list is right near the top of our site. So if you have any comments or questions, make sure to just leave those right below this video, and I'll get back to you as fast as I can. See you.